Number 3. I'm kind of sitting around today wondering what I'd actually want to talk about. I had an alright day. Went out to Bunnings with the missus. Both kind of slept in, got up and potted around. I was in the shed most of the morning, went out, half-assed mowed the lawn. And yeah, I'm going to reshave my head. I've got to keep doing this until I've done all of my appointments with work cover and any of my doctor's appointments for my lawyer. They wanted me to shave my head so that people could see the scar. Been doing my head in because it's quite an indent. That being said, it's kind of funny. I was sitting around waiting for yesterday's videos to upload to YouTube and Facebook, and while I was waiting, I decided I'd do a little bit of snooping, so to speak. There are a couple of Facebook pages of my ex-wife that every now and then there'll be a new photo of my son and daughter. It's the closest I'm going to get. Kind of seeing some of the stuff that she's putting I'm assuming the father of the new child through. It's kind of similar to what I went through in the beginning. I got slapped with a VRO. Ooh, that was close. A couple of days after leaving my ex-wife, it's quite common in her family. Whilst I was with my ex-wife, there was an incident where her mum, on a drunken rampage, decided that she wanted to lash out at my ex-wife and myself because there was some tension between neighbours on the street, and I didn't want any part of it. So I went over to said neighbour's place, went and had a beer with them, and just said, look, I want no part of this shit. I've got no issues with him. My ex-wife ended up following, and then when we went back to her mum and dad's place where we were living at the time, we were actually living in a shed. Our bedroom door was legitimately a motorised up-down door. Fucking cold at night. But yeah, so we've come back and her mum is just absolutely irate. She's throwing shit. Ended up beating the crap out of her with a bar stool whilst I was being held back, but I was accused of lashing out when all I did was knock the bar stool out of her mum's hands and stood in front of her. Being 6'3", at the time I was averaging about 75, 80 kilos. I've always been fairly muscular, but tall son of a bitch standing in between an angry person and their target, that's not going to back down. That'd be, my heritage in me. Must have intimidated her enough that she had to rush herself to hospital for a cut that she'd given herself when she broke my computer, which I thought was fucking hilarious. Considering that computer, my mum and dad, I bought from where my mum used to work at, pretty sure it was Princess Margaret Hospital here in WA. So she was an old computer. She did what she needed to do, which was hold my music have a few movies on it, had paint, had a few games on it. That's all I wanted it for. But yeah, she broke the monitor, which is fucking, as I said, fucking hilarious. But she managed to fracture most of I'm sure it's metatarsals, all the little bones in your hand. Managed to fracture just about all of them. But on top of that, she had a sprained wrist, and they put her in a cast. I stayed by her side the whole night. We went from her mum's place. We phoned her cousin who worked around the corner, or 3 or 4. But then, went to go to the Rockingham Hospital, which was our local. Her mum had rushed herself there, and her mum's family was there, and we were cut. That was it. So then we had to go to Fremantle, which from where we were was about a half-hour drive at night. Where we sat in the emergency. Next morning, the police were there questioning because, there's this 16-year-old girl. She was, she was 16. I was just turned 18. Yeah. And there's a 16-year-old girl with a hand that's completely muffed up, in tears, and there I am. I had no tats. I was very much baby-faced, minus the fact that my nose has always been this big from being broken so many times. But yeah, they questioned whether or not I did it. So they pulled me aside. They wouldn't question me. Then they went and questioned my ex-wife on her own. I went and grabbed a coffee, came back, and they turned around and said, "Look, we've got no issues with you. We know it wasn't you, da-da-da-da-da." But then we had the problem of having to find somewhere to live. Now, we'd been bouncing around already, from friend's place to friend's place, so to speak. So we ended up moving in with one of her old managers from where we used to work. And yeah, about a fortnight into living there, we got hit with a VRO from her mum and her dad. It started off, the first day it was just my partner, and I'm kind of sitting there going, okay, that makes no sense, but okay. And then I got hit with mine the next day, which made sense considering her mum was, and to my understanding, is still pretty toxic on the alcohol. The ex-father-in-law was a FIFO worker. He just kind of started this new roster where he was gone for, I think he was 2 on 1 off, and she wasn't really coping. During that time, my ex-wife and I got pretty hectic. Ended up finding a shared accommodation after she went and moved in with one of her aunts, and I went into a youth hostel because I was still under the age of 18. I was barely able to. Went to 2 hostels in the end. Took me about 6 months. Found a shared accommodation. Moved in. Whole heap of crap went down from one of the newer housemates after my partner, my ex-wife, moved in. Who I later on found out was bipolar, and very heavy into black tar and a few other issues. And And then, yeah, few issues there. We ended up moving back in with her mum and dad, which I was completely against from day dot. But at the time, we had just found out that she was pregnant with my son. We found out at 3.5 months that she was pregnant. There was I'd paid for pregnancy test after pregnancy test, and nothing. And then 3.5 months, he decided, yeah, I'll let you know I'm here. Ended up moving back in with her mum and dad, and that lasted probably a few months after my son was born, after we'd moved out country, and I turned around and said, like, fuck, I'm not doing this anymore. I ended up getting a rental, another shared accommodation with one of my managers who went absolutely fucking retarded. And then I ended up finding a rental kind of in the middle of where I would soon to be work, and around the corner from my mum and dad, which wasn't really a big positive for me. I didn't really care. I'd gotten used to not talking to my family. Kind of developed a really bad habit where I'd burn bridges before I'd admit that I was an idiot. Very different to who I am today, to an extent. But yeah, probably about 2-3 days after I'd left my ex-wife, I went to my mum and dad and said I just need somewhere to sleep and to be able to cope. Mum and dad put me up. And then, yeah, I got hit with a VRO. By this stage, my back pain from all the years of abuse of doing mixed fighting and boxing and wrestling and shit like that, I started to become overly dependent on painkillers, and at that time my teeth had started to deteriorate. Little tip, I didn't lose my teeth through drugs. I lost my teeth through lack of care. I was drinking gallons of Coca-Cola a day when I first moved out of home. At 15 and 9 months, I left home with the same attitude of, I'm not brushing my teeth because I don't really care. I'm a smoker, as you've seen in my last couple of videos. I smoke cigarettes. And I still drink Coke. I still drink alcohol. Every now and then, with the medication that I'm on, I'm not supposed to, so I've learned to limit myself to once in a blue moon. Doesn't stop the craving of wanting to be able to sit around with the boys and have a cold one after a hard day, or after not seeing each other for so long, and then finally catching up. It's nice to be able to sit down, have a cold beer, or Bundaberg rum. I got pretty bad for a while where I was drinking a hell of a lot. My poison of choice, and still to this day, is tequila. Where I turn into one or two people. I either turn into your best friend or I turn into your worst nightmare. So when I'm hurting, I tend to hit the tequila, and that's a tell sign for a lot of people that know me, that shit's not right. I need to be pulled aside, and they need to get whatever the hell is wrong with me out of me. I need to admit it. I need to confront it. And to this day, I haven't had tequila in a little over 12 months. But yeah, so sitting on Faceballs and seeing that this new guy is going through the same crap that I went through, kind of feel sorry. And at the same token, I'm not surprised. I believe the old saying is, a leopard will never change its spots. That's Dozer in the background if you can't see. As well as one of my partner's paintings. She's quite an artist. Doesn't like taking compliments like a lot of people that have self-confidence issues. However, I tell it to her every day that she has got one hell of a talent. Yeah. So seeing that kind of brought back some memories, and I kind of sat back and had a bit of a giggle to myself this morning. However, doesn't stop the pain there. You know, I haven't seen a photo of my kids for a while now. And I think that the bit that hurts the most is the fact that my ex seems to find a new partner and force this new partner onto to all of her kids, and that person's expected to pick up pieces that when they undoubtedly end up leaving are the same pieces that were broken in the beginning. Which is why I turn around and I do state that when my children are old enough to come up and ask me why I did what I did, my door is always open. Even if they come up to reach out to me, come knock on the door, I open it, and they knock my lights out. All for it. My arms will always be open to them. I will never not stop thinking about them. But I can't keep living on that anymore. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to my partner. It's not fair to myself. Because there is a lot of pent-up rage there. But I've learnt to... I'm very slowly learning to turn that anger into something else. My biggest problem has always been control, which, as I said in the first video, I don't have control anymore. So I tend to try and avoid spending too long on Facebook. I don't make a lot of posts, hence why this page has had very little from when I first started. But that's slowly changing. As I said, I'm going to try and make this a daily thing. Not really making a time limit on whatever videos that I'm making. I'm purely doing this as a way to vent. And to this guy, if he wants to reach out and ask why nobody warned him beforehand, he knows how to contact me. I've had one of her exes contact me about a year or so ago, where he was led to believe that her third child was his. Apparently it ended up not being his, and he was left in absolute disarray. At the time she was getting pretty bad on not coping with separation. Whilst we just after my son was born, she was diagnosed with postnatal depression. I myself had my own version that I was going through. When I left home at the age that I did, and I got into the crew that I was with, I've in my short life I have lost 28 friends. I've seen friends overdose in front of me. I have seen friends die from drink driving, and I've come into a room after they've committed suicide. I've been around that, and that was hard enough to deal with at a young age. But my ex-wife put it upon herself to stop taking the medication and not deal with the issues, which isn't something to sit there and poke at. A lot of people don't deal with what they need to, which is something that I'm. The main reason why I'm doing this, why I see my psychologist, is to start learning how to reprogram my brain so that I'm learning these tools and I'm able to better myself in society, so that I'm able to walk outside, out my front door without having to take medication and not feel like the whole world is out to get me. Which is very hard, but it is slowly getting there. So I'm going to end this video here. Until tomorrow. I'll catch you later.